for. So we're not there yet. There's some basics. So that's what the hope is to look at those national and state standards, start thinking about what do we want our kids to be able to know and do at each grade level, and then start working on getting the nitty-gritties with the skills and the content.
And that's also why we feel like we need to be pulling some of the K-6, particularly K-6 groups, out to get the work started, because we've been working on this for 3 years without the system. So doing it by hand takes forever. And what we've been trying to get them to do is to identify, like what we'll say, their power standards and which units are their biggest priorities to get a start. And what we found is they don't have enough support and structure to actually be making great progress. So that's why Amy's plan is so important, is because we're going to kind of front load the work with a great facilitator and do it in a way that will build momentum and confidence so that they can then go back to their teams and get more work done at a faster pace, which is essentially what's happened at the middle school and high school with them all on one site. But we haven't had that, we don't have that luxury with, when you have 7 teachers across 3 buildings. So that's why the structure is so important, and the idea of pulling them some during school time in the next few months has become our best plan, because we need to build momentum and get that training and that facility, that kind of the concept of mapping more solidified in our leaders.
So is your timeline maybe next year for elementary schools where you feel like it would be more in line,
most plans are like, basically Rubicon Atlas, the professional systems will say you should have a 3 to 5 year plan. So we're going to do the initial creation, and then you have to go through a review process for each of the subject areas, and then it will be brought to the school board through the curriculum committee, the educational policy, to look at the curriculum and give us some feedback on it and to approve the work that we've done. So it's not, in a year we'll have a great start. In 3 years we'll be in a better place, and then you have the constant review. These aren't, like we've talked about, this is not a binder on the shelf that gets dusty. It's a constant review and being constantly adapted based on the needs.
And then, so finally, from our October 7th workshop day, if you look in your packet, it says district benefits. We talked about the benefits of mapping, and mapping is this piece that we were just looking at up there with the enduring understandings, essential questions, skills, and content. We talked with all of the staff, and we talked about benefits to staff, students, parents, and then the district. And I just wanted to share with you what the responses were for the district. So you can kind of see on your paper here, there's all of the responses of all of the table groups from grades K through 6. And so I just took all of their responses and plopped them into a Wordle. It's a Wordle.com. And it takes your most popular or reused words and makes them larger. So as you can see, the word common came up twice on the Wordle. And so I think that just kind of displays that the teachers really want this, that they're looking for a commonality between the 3 schools. It doesn't matter what school you're at, you're working on the same units, you're working together. And that's that working smarter, not harder, that I think all teachers really want to be a part of. And then my final slide is to make the new girl blush. Jordan's great. She's on my field hockey team. She's a great addition. Smart girl. You guys are lucky.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I'll be back soon with more updates.
Appreciate it, Amy.
Looks great.
Well, what we make public would just be stage 1, because we wouldn't want to make stage 2 public, because then.
More just the Gantt chart itself.
Yeah. And if you want to see any more charts, just give me a call, and I can definitely send some your way. Love to look at those.
Thank you, Amy. So we need to approve the regular meeting minutes for 9/12/16.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Second to Jack.
The only thing missing is, I know I was there because I know I seconded some of those motions, but I don't hear it in the members present.
All right.
And while you're saying that, I am not sure I did a great job capturing who was at the committee meeting. So when we get to the committee minutes, please check the attendance at that point too. I asked Mary for a little help, but I realized I hadn't written it down carefully, and a few people were in and out.
Find it.
So help me out with that, and we'll make the corrections.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? acceptance of the financial statement. A motion to approve the September 2016 financial statement. By Steve, and a second by Tina. We have a motion and a second, and why don't we see what Stacy, and I think Tina has something she'd like to update us on.
We are at number 7 on our financial reports, meaning we'd have a 73.08% remaining, but we have 27 pays in this fiscal year, so the salary lines reflect a 74.07, so that's why there's a little bit of difference on those. Just a few things that I have noticed on page 6. Under Elm Street School K2 at the bottom, you'll see Ed Tech line for salary, benefits, and retirement. This is a position that was filled after the budget was put together. It's a position that was needed and filled in. So you will continue to see that line show having charges against it, even though there's a 0% on the budget. Page 13. Under PRHS guidance, there is a secretary support retirement line, and that is because most secretaries are federal, pay into Social Security and not Maine State Retirement, but there are a few that are grandfathered, and so when this budget was put together, I wasn't aware of that. The good news is Social Security is at 6.2%, and that is budgeted on 2 lines above in the benefit line, where the Maine State Retirement is only 3.36%. So we do have an offset there that will more than cover those retirement funds. Page 15. The staff training for K-8 and 9-12, that's getting a little low, but most of that training was done in the summer, so we are in good shape on that section. Throughout the budget, there are book lines and supply lines with a percentage left. It makes sense. Most of that ordering has already been done, and so those funds are at a lower percentage remaining.
And to add to this, this is the training we did this summer for Rubicon or some of the other work for PBIS. I'm not sure which one of it came out of here, but that we use these lines for that purpose.
Page 20. The bottom showing special ed transportation. I'm pointing out some of the lines that you've probably seen as you've looked through this budget report. We have $12,000 in this section for special ed transportation. We had some summer monitors, and we have some sub-monitors when the regular monitors aren't available. Those regular monitors come out of transportation, but we do only have 3 monitors budgeted in there. So although there's $12,000 in this section, when it's a salary line, we do have to charge it to a salary line.
And the special ed trips are actually going to be trips. The subs, the monitors were not budgeted for in this line. They, I think, have been in Holly's. They've been in the transportation. No, they've been in your lines, Holly, before, or?
There's a little confusion as to which
Okay.
lines they've been in, but you're right, normally that's a trip line. but you're
Yeah.
right.
So that's one of the reasons you'll see the zeros, that we didn't budget in the special ed transportation line for the monitors, because I think Holly thought they were in the transportation line, but Stacy has clarified that any special ed transportation needs to be in the special ed lines.
And on page 29, in transportation, you'll see the insurance line has a negative amount, and that is because we had a refund from buses that were sold. Later on in the agenda, you do see the approval for new buses, and at that point, we would get new bills from the insurance company, and you'd see a charge to those lines. Now moving on to adult ed. All I have to point out here, it is page 1 of 4, so right after the 35 pages end of the general fund, adult ed starts. And there is a line that is in this budget twice. It's a revenue line, so on page 1, the last line that begins with 1650, it shows a receipt of $653. That line is also on page 3 under the enrichment revenue. And so I have taken it out of her regular fund is $1,500. It does belong with the $1,650. It's just printing twice on the printout. Food service. Under the revenue section, the first claim of the year is due the first week of October, and it's for September. So where this financial ends September 30, it's not showing that revenue coming in yet, but it was $52,393. We are in the black year-to-date, $8,825 in the food service. Yes. So that's all I had, unless anyone had any questions.
Yeah. You're using the same account numbers this year that you changed to last year?
For which fund, Norm?
Well, pretty much, and I know there's always exceptions, but pretty much the entire report.
Yes.
Yes.
All of those changes during budget time that you heard about are now being implemented.
Okay.
Yes.
My question, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I don't want to give you a lot of work because you got enough to do, but can you just dump in one more column that would say year-to-date last year? Just
Not
so we-
on this report, I cannot,
Okay.
because this module doesn't talk to past modules. That's in the budget prep module.
Yeah.
So when we start bringing the proposed budget forward, you will see that prior year-to-date column.
Okay.
But for this report, that's not an option.
Is that because of all the change in the calendars, because obviously the actuals last year are different, even
No.
next year,
No.
you'll just use it won't show up higher
Nope.
year-to-date?
When you ask it for a financial report, you have to tell it what fiscal year. So it doesn't feed in fiscal years together. But when you're doing a budget prep module, it understands you want to compare year to year. So it does let you choose multiple fiscal years at
Okay.
one time.
And
That's just the years of running business. We always were able to look back.
and-
Not that it does any good to look backwards, but it does give you some guidelines of where you are.
And it will in the budget prep module when we use
And
that.
particularly because the lines changed so much, we couldn't even show line to line when we were creating the budget because they are so different this year. So it
Right.
will, next year it will be a lot, when we go through the budget process, we will be using the same lines, so we will be able to do that this year, projecting for next year to show what we spent and the new proposed. So it will be a lot easier now
Yeah,
that we're.
we'll see it at budget time, but it doesn't do us any good during the year to know, other than we are on budget or whatever. Okay. It's not that important to me, just trying to put Stacy on the spot.
I have a question
Thank you,
on
Stacy.
You're
page
welcome.
11, and it may be more of a question for Tina than Stacy, but we were older in both the K-8 and the 9-12 summer school. Is that because we didn't collect any money this year, we made the decision not to charge for summer school? Is that why?
We shouldn't be over, and this is more a matter of working with the administrators to make sure what we budget we provide for offerings. So during the school year, you have students, you have to provide the programs they need. In the summer, this is additional programming. It's not required by law that we have it. So when we budget for it, we have to stay within the budget. And when I was looking at this, I kind of did the note to self. I clearly haven't done due diligence and working with the administrators to make sure we stay within those lines. So if we only have money for 4 teachers, we only hire 4 teachers, and the students who need it the most are the ones that get it. And
I thought maybe it was because we weren't taking in money for summer school.
No, we planned, when we did this budget, when we did this budget, we planned for about how much we thought we would need.
Yeah.
And then the challenge comes is it's a prediction that we're making in December for the next summer. And so we did that, process of how much we think we need. And then the administrators and the teachers, when they're planning their summer sessions, are going on what's actual. And so if we are, if we're setting up summer school and it's training and we've only got a certain amount in it, I think we need to stay within that amount. or at least closer than we did this year.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Anyone
You must
opposed?
know nuts going through that.
Unanimous? Thank you, Stacy.
I love numbers.
So don't go anywhere, Stacy, just in case there are questions, or if I need some help. One of the things that you have in your packet is just a sheet that looks like this. And it has, we've talked a bit about this. I talked about this at the last committee meeting, that we're watching the budget closely because there have been a lot of unexpected and unbudgeted issues, costs, and we've also had some new hires that we need to do and some errors in our budgeting process that are just coming to light. So I'm sharing this with you because I think it's really important to know that we are going to have a tight fiscal year. We're on top of it. We're watching it closely, and I'm going to be giving you regular updates on how we're doing during our fiscal reports. So again, trying to look big picture for the whole district, I've got quite a few things in here that cover various departments or cost centers. So the first one, seed money, you all know about that. Last year we were surprised by the cost of seed money, so we increased our seed money budget to actual, which was $95,000 at the time we were doing the budget. The actual at the end of the year ended up being $145,000. So if it's even the same as last year, we're looking at a shortfall of about $50,000 in seed money, which is the money that we have to pay toward main care services when our out-of-district kids receive services. And then the next chunk of expenses you're seeing are facilities. So you know about the boiler. These are all ones we've talked about. The boiler at PCS was an unexpected cost, just approximately $10,000. The environmental system at PRHS, $12,000, and then the oil tank at mine at Consolidated School, $50,000. So right there you can see the cost of these items that we've repaired since this summer that we could not repair. They all broke and needed replacement or repair. Yes?
That didn't come from capital improvement?
That all came from capital improvement.
So that shouldn't put us in into the red because the money was already approved.
Yeah,
I guess that's my question.
Yes, so the money's in, it's in the CIP, but what you need to realize is, so now we're down to $15,000 left in our CIP account for the rest of the year.
Okay.
And that will need to be replenished next year. So it still means a budget impact for the future because you can't leave your CIP account at $15,000.
Yeah.
And if there are any more problems that are large,
yeah,
it would bleed into other areas or cause more problems. But again, these are just trying to look at the big picture stuff so you're kind of aware. The next things are, again, we added the nurse rather than the LPN, and we talked about that. That was a cost of close to $10,000. The adult ed budget has an $11,000 error in it. The first 279s that came for the state had the wrong numbers in them. They did correct them after the fact, but now there's now it wasn't budgeted, so there's an $11,000 shortage in adult ed, and because there's no buffer money there, Jenny can't absorb that, so we will absorb that ourselves through what we did budget that amount for her. It's just not in the budget, that amount for her. We have, and the next chunks are some errors that we made. So adult ed high school secretary was an open position at the time we budgeted. A half-time social worker at Elm Street was an open position. Both of those were left out of the budget because when Stacy brought the salaries over, there was a zero there. We weren't spending any money out. It didn't show up in the lines. And when we had the administrators review their lines, it wasn't caught. Because again, there were lines that changed. It wasn't obvious. So our cross checks that we have to make sure these things don't happened partly because of the changes that we made, and also because we had a new staff member that didn't realize there were open positions there. And then special ed sublines, the same thing happened for. So special ed sublines, when were not put in. We don't know how much that could be. We estimate maybe around $40,000, $43,000 is about what we expect what we were expecting. And again, when Holly looked at the budget, she assumed the subs were in with the special ed subs were in with the regular subs and didn't notice the line wasn't there. So our backup checks failed us. And of course, we talked about the fact that that might happen with all of the line changes, and special ed lines changed dramatically. So we have some makeup to do in those areas, and those are concerning. And then the one that's not on here that we brought up earlier is the ed tech we needed for kindergarten at Elm Street School. We ended up with 20 kids in that class, I think, initially.
22, I think.
22. So we, again, the state guidelines are for 18 in kindergarten, and so we added an ed tech right around the time school started, I believe. So that's not even listed in there in this list. So you can see when you total that all up, there's a lot of expenses that weren't anticipated. The good news is that when we had some retirements and some resignations, and the new hires that we had came in at lower amount than what we had budgeted. So there's somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 of salary money that will help cover some of the instructional, needs in other areas. But again, it's still going to be a tough budget year, and we're watching those lines closely. So I just want to keep you aware and let you know you will be getting ongoing updates as the year goes on, and we're tightening our belt.
So just to clarify, out of this list that you have, the CIP money would have been the things at the school, right? The boiler and so that's like 82,000,
Yes.
and so it's really the total here that affects the direct budget is less than the 260.
And the rest will be an impact when we go forward with a budget,
Yep.
but aren't necessary, or if we have any more facility, failures. But yes, that's absolutely right.
Just want to make sure I was clear.
Yes,
Well, the entire budget, though, is less than 2%.
yes. Exactly. Although you got to remember, when over 80% of your budget is people, those are fixed costs. So
Right.
you can't there's not a lot of places to cut and save when you have additional expenditures.
I have a question too. With the special ed subs, I know that we have a lot of special ed. Is that considered with the ed techs too that we have subbing? Are those in your special ed tech lines?
Yes.
Substitutes?
So what happens, one of the reasons it made it difficult to figure out how much subs you really need is because last year we had some open positions, we had subs in them, so the total cost for subs last year was like $100,000, but all of the salary lines were offset that. So we know that it's not a $100,000 cost because you got salaries for the people that you're not filling. We were trying to figure out how much of that do we think is not subs for people who are out and not being paid, but
So right now, where we stand, because I know that there's a couple of special ed new hires that we got, one teacher and 2 ed techs that we filled. So how many more subs does that leave in special ed right now as long-term subs?
So we have, and we have a report. If you look at Holly's report, you're going to see it. I think she had listed 2 positions are totally open and not filled, and all the rest are filled with long-term subs. So when we get to Holly's report, take a look at it. It will give you those numbers.
Those long-term subs, I guess what I'm getting, because I've read that, but the long-term subs are coming out of this line also.
Yes, absolutely. And so again, the more subs you have, you don't worry if you have subs as long as the salary's not being paid.
Right.
The challenge comes when you have a teacher
who's
out. We're paying the teacher or the ed tech because they're sick or they're on maternity leave, and you're covering for the sub. That's where the need area is.
How many positions in the whole RSU 16 have we hired that we didn't budget for?
Positions, I would say one ed tech for kindergarten, a half of a social worker, and $8,000 for the secretary, the ones you're seeing, that's it.
Okay.
And we have 2, no, I should take that back. We have 2 open positions. So we have a teacher for foreign language we didn't fill, and we have a 6th grade we didn't fill. So you have a little bit of both.
So we haven't really added, okay.
Yes.
But I guess my question's going to be, how can we justify adding these people? Some we probably absolutely have to have.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
it
K-
screws up budgets
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah, the K position we have to have. The state doesn't allow you to have more than 20 kids in a kindergarten class, and if we have 22, you have to add another body.
Okay.
So we didn't add anybody because we wanted to. It wasn't a luxury.
Moving right along.
Whoops, Diana.
I have a question. We always seem to get surprised by the seed money.
Yes.
Is there any monitoring, like we get regular to say, we are seeing this and I think that's going to mean this?
So I
Do
went.
you have to do that a year in advance or?
Yes, sort of. So I went to the state, that's one of the meetings I had this summer. I went to the state and I talked to the financial director about how to anticipate better, because we certainly have been caught off guard by this. And she did explain to me what we can do for internal reviews. Their reporting is always 2 quarters behind. So you really, it's not perfect, but she said if the 2 quarters, if you have 2 quarters that you get accurate information from, the chance that it's going to be dramatically different for the next 2 quarters is unlikely. So, yeah, I have Holly doing a review for us. She's reviewing all the out-of-district placement IEPs. And what she will do is she needs to look at what services are being provided that are main care eligible, and then project out for the whole year for those costs, and then we have to pay a third of it. So constantly learning, and that was just information I didn't have, I didn't understand, and so I certainly was saying we need to have some idea of how to anticipate better, because if we're going on actual what's happening right now, it's not working for us, and so that's what we found, that there is that ability.
Of course, can I just jump in with one
sure.
piece? What makes it really challenging to figure out the seed cost and the main care cost is most of our students in out-of-district placements need a certain level of one-on-one support during the day, and it varies. Some days they may need an hour of that. Some days they are having such a rough day they have 6 hours of that. We're paying seed money on that hourly cost. So when I can project out, and boy, if you saw the numbers, it would scare you. Worst case scenario of what it might be if every student needed 6 hours of support every single day. It would just blow our budget. But that's why it's really hard, because it varies day to day, depending on how the student's presenting with what level of support they need. So it does vary.
And Holly and Stacy and I are meeting monthly now, and those are the kind of things that we're doing, is we're reviewing, like, what are the projections for at this point, and be really working diligently to try to get closer to that amount.
Is there any move on the legislative end to change this funding formula?
They had a meeting this morning. I wasn't able to attend, but Stacy went to the last one. They're working on it, but I don't anticipate we're going to see a big change anytime soon.
The bottom line is the state doesn't have the money to fund it. So we can put all kinds of laws in place, but you can't get blood from a stone saying.
Yeah, we had talked about hoping to be able to bring back some of the, how many have we brought back, or have we brought any?
Yeah, we brought one back, and we're working on one other one. So that's where we are today. Our goal was to try to get 3 returned. We feel like there are 3 when we look at their IEP and the growth that they're making at their site, that they were close. I think Holly would agree that we're still that's still our hope, is we've got one more close to being ready to come back, and one more that you've kind of got in the pipeline. Is that true, Holly?
Yes, we have lost a couple of out-of-district kids because they moved. We, of course, had another one move into district. So again, we've got that constant ebb and flow. But one of the students that we had really felt strongly, if we opened a new program, we'd bring back, we have brought back. So that was really, we feel successful with that.
And you got to do that through the IEP process, so it takes a little time for their IEP team to,
Yeah, I
come to that decision.
understand it very well, and it's almost I used to tell former special ed directors, your budget's just a crapshoot anyway. We really want to help these kids, but you can't anticipate 4 days ahead of time sometimes.
Holly would agree with you.
Yeah, I've told them all that, so.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we're ready to move on to new business and to approve a teacher nomination. Jennifer McNally.
Sean, do you want to talk a little bit about Jennifer McNally?
She doesn't work for me, she works for Peter.
Oh, that's right. She's
Back at the high school.
she's at the high school, right? Holly, do you want to speak?
I can speak.
It's a mistake on there.
Jennifer McNally. Jennifer actually worked in the district years ago and got one of our life skills programs going. And then she came back and she was subbing last year, and when we took our social emotional classroom at the high school and split it into 2 classes, we actually kind of courted Jen as a potential teacher, and we were thrilled that she accepted, and she's doing great in that program right now. So we're very thrilled and happy to have her.
Thank you, Holly.
We have a motion,
So moved.
Second.
and seconded by Annette. So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. The next one is to approve Mary Martin as the RSU 16 delegate to the Maine School Board Association Annual Delegate Assembly.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? I will explain a little bit about that process. And the resolutions were in your packet. And if you have any feedback for me in terms of those, this is a meeting that will review those resolutions. And these are the resolutions that the School Board Association look at as they go to propose legislation and to support legislation. So I would just sort of be part of that discussion. So if there are things that you feel strongly about, would like me to make sure that I'm aware of, let me know. I'll go over just really briefly what those resolutions are. There's one around local control student transfers, so that if 2 superintendents make an agreement to make a student transfer, that it be clear that that's between the superintendents and not one that can be overruled by the state. There's one around teacher retirement costs. To reiterate, it opposes the rising teacher retirement costs that have been shifted to us over the last couple of years. And then there's one in terms of leadership at the Department of Education, certainly supporting the fact that we have a commissioner of education, which we don't have at this time, and the importance of having that kind of leadership at the state level. There is one on special ed costs, similar to the discussion that we just had, that finding ways to support student needs while at the same time controlling costs. And there's one about allowing school unit collaboration. There are some state laws that make it difficult for some collaboration between certain RSUs and SADs, and to look at that issue. So those are the resolutions that would be discussed at that meeting. So we have a motion and a second that I represent you there. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Have fun.
Okay, I will actually enjoy that. Some fun stuff, so. Our next one, and we'll go to John for that. We're going to have 2 bids that we're going to need to look at and approve, heating oil and snow plowing. So why don't you want to start with heating oil, John?
Okay, we sent out invitations to 5 heating contractors in our area, and we also posted an ad in the paper. We received 2 bids back. The first one we received was from Dead River. They quoted a price of $1.90 4/10, and the other bidder was Fieldings Oil. Both companies out of Auburn, and Fieldings bid a price of $1.84.
So I guess that's a no-brainer. Have we dealt with them before?
We haven't. Currently, the contract expired with C.N. Brown, and we were paying $1.82 3/10 the current year, so we're going to pay a penny more. But C.N. Brown didn't bid this year. I'm not sure why.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And
Wait a
motion
minute.
is
So
for-
moving which motion?
Yep.
Which bid?
Which contractor?
Fielding. Fielding. Yeah.
So we have a motion to accept the bid from Fielding. That was made by Norman, seconded by Jack.
And I did have one other question regarding Fieldings, because I don't know that much about Fieldings. as far as capacity for us?
They're a large state. They're
So
a hospital around
Great.
the state.
And they're getting larger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
The only
growing.
question I have is, because I know from my other life as principal, that one of the issues was delivery and time of delivery. Are they able to accommodate our school schedules?
Yes, when we send out the bid spec, we specify certain hours of delivery time for certain schools and locations, and they assure us that they'll meet those times.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? It was unanimous to accept fielding and snow plowing.
Okay, we sent out 6 invitations for snow plowing and also posted in the paper. Instead of reading the numbers, if you just refer to the graph I put in my report, we allowed contractors to bid 2 ways this year, either the per storm method or a lump sum. Contractors certainly have their preference of how they would like to do it. Some believe they make more money one way, others believe they do it the other. This year we had 2 contractors working for us. D.R. Nichols did the high school and Jason Edwards did the community school. And as you can see by the numbers bid this year, based on the numbers that they've supplied, D.R. Nichols certainly comes in as the lowest bidder for all 3 facilities that we bid. And we have done business with Nichols, and we were perfectly happy with their service last year.
And they can accommodate all the schools?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the bid from D.R. Nichols.
I'll second that.
Second. Catherine, any discussion, questions?
Just to further, Catherine, in our contracts, it does, we do stipulate that if the contractor doesn't deliver, we have the ability to go out and hire another contractor and pass that expense at time and a half on to that contractor. So,
Whoa,
there's incentive to deliver.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. The next one is to approve a 2 half-day professional workshop days for food service staff. Do you want to, John or Tina, talk about that?
I'll start. The support staff contract for Article 10, work years and work hours, I'm going to read you the first section A. It said, "Is it understood between the parties that the scheduled work year of employees may be increased or decreased by the board?" So that's why we're here, in order to meet the educational, operational, and financial needs of RSU 16. And that the wages shall be adjusted accordingly, should there be any change in work year for any reason, so we will pay them, of course. And then the board or its designee shall meet and consult with the association before making any change in the employee's work year. So we will certainly take back to the association that we are needing this addition. And I don't know if John wants to talk about what will occur on those 2 days?
The reason being is we have a lot of mandatory trainings required by, both the Department of Labor and, any other education trainings that are required for their ongoing certification. And with the hours stipulated in the contract, we either now have to pay overtime, or the employee could actually say, it's not in my contract to have to be there on those days. So, not that we've had that issue. We've got a fantastic food service staff, but, to make sure that we don't create any waves in the future, we would just like to be able to have that approval from the board.
And we've done this in the past by just having them, like we do with ed techs, but when we looked closely at the contract, we're like, oh, for food service specialists, it does say just the student year, so when students are in session. So we realized that some of our past practice was a little different with not realizing the board had to do the approval. We were just doing notification. Again, John, we've never had any issues with staff coming because they're being paid. They're happy to be paid for the work, but we wanted to make sure we were following that language and getting your approval before setting those trainings up.
Any impact to student services during these half-day?
No, because we're going to do them on teacher workshop days.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second by Julie. Any more questions? Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous. To approve the comprehensive emergency management plan, which John sent us, and you want to say what you can about that. It needs to be a confidential plan.
Yeah, essentially, it really built on the existing plans that we had and incorporated, several more different types of emergencies that have impacted schools over the years, not necessarily ours, but of course nationwide. And it's just given really a good a tool for administrators to use that's consistent district-wide. It's a lot of the information is boilerplate, things that we've taken from successes of other schools, and we've just kind of made it unique to our district. And there really isn't anything of significant surprise in there. A lot of it is, common sense, but, when you have an emergency crisis, sometimes people, don't always think straight. And now they've got a book to go by.
And it does require collaboration with our communities. Is that something that you've already done, or now you'll take this to them and get their feedback and make changes?
At this point, the plan was presented to both the Sheriff's Department and Poland Fire for them to review and to comment. So once this is complete, there is a section in it that does require certain levels of training, which, so what will happen at this point is after it's approved, it'll be distributed to the administrators. The safety committee then will start, to put the training aspect into effect.
Any questions?
No, it made good bedside reading.
Yeah. It is comprehensive.
How many nights?
Well, I usually fall asleep in about 10 minutes, so.
2 weeks, yeah.
I've only got just the last few pages to go, but
I've not read it
it's a good
in its
job.
entirety either.
Did very good.
Tina, did you have a question? Okay. So we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Norm. Any other questions or discussion?
Well, I kind of do,
It's a
because
good job.
I haven't had a chance to read it entirely, so I don't feel like I can really vote on it, even though it's probably just fine. You know?
Abstain.
You can abstain if you
Okay,
choose to.
I will.
Okay. So all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? We have 2 people abstaining. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And then we have to approve for the superintendent to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Androscoggin Bank for the purchase of 3 2016 GMC buses.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Second, Jack.
thought it was
Talk a little bit about that, Stacy.
Sure.
It said on the new agenda, it said 3. It is 3.
Yes.
Okay. Do you wanna
One's a
address-
minibus and 2 other larger buses.
And those were approved through the budget process.
Yes.
And just what we're expecting. So you can see in your details, 4-year term lease, 2.5% interest rate.
Anybody have any questions for Stacy about that?
Any idea when these will be delivered?
We've already got
The
one, right?
minibus was supposed to be here by now. Did it come today?
I don't know.
Okay. The other 2 they are at the dealers,
Okay.
and they're due here within the next couple of weeks. We do have a scheduled closing with the bank pending approval tonight, November 4th, I believe, Tina. Yep.
I assume we're taking 2 or 3 buses out of the fleet.
I believe there will be 3 up
And
for
are we
sale.
going to park them for 3 years before we do anything? Or
No, we're gonna get, so when they take new buses, we take the new ones, they take the old ones back. That's the smartest move we could make.
Yeah.
Actually, I already had a call from a gentleman looking to find out if we had any used buses for sale. I told him to call back in a month.
Okay,
Good.
yeah, just so we don't have them sitting there forever and whatever. Good.
But we gotta bid them out,
Okay,
right?
so we have a motion and a second to approve that bus purchase. All
So
those in
moved.
favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Stacy.
We have a policy. This is a policy on student, parent, guardian agreement for school-issued technology devices. And my understanding is that the only difference is the change in word from laptop to iPad. Is that correct?
Yes.
So moved.
And
Approved.
you have a second?
Second.
Second from Tina. Motion and second. Questions, discussion? Tina, you wanna?
I don't, do I have it in front of me? Can you read it to me?
The original copy is please sign the agreement certifying you've read
Oh.
and agreed to IJ and you
Yes.
student, and now it says that you have attended a parent or
That, I think what they, I thought the only thing they added, no, just that they've read and agreed. It does say, that's what I was told was the difference, was that they read and agreed to the agreement, right here.
now it says that you have attended a parent orientation
this one.
meeting.
Or you video, or watch the video.
Right,
So
so,
that's the old one and this is the new one.
oh, this is the new one, I'm sorry. I was thinking it was the other way around. Revised copy. So there are two changes. Thank you, Diana. I do, so basically they're saying in the first sentence is that they are agreeing, they are signing this and it's an agreement. It's kind of like when you have your, sign your agreements for an update that you've read the agreement. Sean, can you want to speak to it?
I can just say that the second one was what we were using in the middle school this year, just because of the process. We wanted to get the agreement sheets home to families before we had families come in for the parent information night. We still did provide the parent information night, so that piece didn't go away. It was just a matter of process of making sure we got this in the parents' hands and could move the whole process along.
Sean, can you clarify? So the one you used this year said that they viewed the training video online?
No, the high school used the one on the left, the one above online, and the middle school used the one on the right.
Okay, that was what my understanding. I didn't realize there's a difference for the high school, so I'm not as informed as I guess I should be right now. So, right, what I had been told is that they had to say they had read and agreed to the internet policy use, and that it changed the word laptop down here on number 1.
I sent copies of the policy.
Right, from iPad to laptop, because the high school still has their iPads, but the middle school has laptops now. Because
So
this
which
is a
one are
state
we
provided.
voting on?
So we are voting on the middle school, which changed the language for the laptop. This is the one that we had to send forward because the high schools did not change in
So is
this.
the revised copy,
I
is
don't
that
know.
correct?
We can delay the, I mean, I think it's already been done, and the change was cosmetic, and they needed to get something into parents' hands,
I think
and
maybe it's just the original is the revised one.
Or they're two separate, are they two separate items?
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I signed the original copy.
Yes, right, so this is the one I was asked to put forward, and that's what I have from Linda. I've attached a signature page for the policy, which is our student computer internet use, because the signature page specifically says school-issued iPads, and we now have laptops in the middle school. I created a separate signature page, and our question was, do we need board approval? And I was saying, if it's just saying that they understand that they're getting something, you can go forward, so you can get these in the hands of kids. However, I wanted it to come before the board, because we were making a language change. So, yeah.
So maybe we can.
Her room's right there, but I'm not sure if she's here or not. Can you see if Linda's in there? I doubt she is. Yeah.
If there's any questions, I can answer them. I think, what you just read is correct.
Yeah.
Both of those forms were used. One was used by the high school this year, and then when we looked at that form as far as the middle school goes, it did not meet the needs that we had at the time. So we made a request to have a second form that met our needs.
So you're gonna have the original plus another one for the other class.
Correct.
But the one for the other class still says iPad.
Right, because that's the high school, and they still have iPads.
So the revision is just for the middle school?
Correct.
And this will stay as the high school?
Yeah, they're mislabeled. Original
I was gonna
copy
say they
should
must
say
be-
middle school copy.
Right.
The revised copy, that should just say.
Got
Heritage
it.
copy.
Right.
I was going to say, but shouldn't the requirements be the same at the top? Whether you're having them do the patient, yeah. It's my nurse coming up, parent orientation meeting, or whether you're having them read the policy, or, you know.
They think middle schools have never had it before, so it's brand new. High schools have probably had it for years and years. So it's just a...
Because if you had the revised copy, if you had just changed, to me anyways, guidelines for care and use of school-issued iPads/laptops, it seemed to me would have taken care of the whole issue. I don't know, am I missing something? What, I know you mentioned, you said there was language that wasn't meeting your needs.
Right, there's no video that exists regarding the laptop at this point, and there's also just the timing as far as the process goes. We're sending these green sheets out to families, seventh graders who have never been in the building and never had the school technology. So we wanted to get that out to them in advance, let them see the policy, then bring them in and have a parent night, and that's the process that we use.
The one that says revised has middle school and high school.
So what we're saying is we didn't use that with the middle school. We only used right, but we didn't use that with the.
Oh, okay.
We didn't use that with the middle school. We're using the one on your right with the middle school.
So I think we probably need to table it and have correct ones.
It's already done anyway. It's already done anay. It's just a matter of next year.
Yeah, looking
so
forward.
If we could, table that and put it on.
Who would have
the
thought
next
so?
agenda.
I know, so simple. I know. So complicated.
Yeah, I don't know where the revised copy and original copy. Lauren might have done that.
Are they trying to make it just one page for both schools?
I don't know.
That's what we're suggesting. But
I'm not sure. I just know that she asked me said the iPad versus laptop needed to change and sent me an explanation so I could talk about it tonight, which clearly wasn't enough.
Moving on.
I did not anticipate that.
We can expect to see that next.
Yes.
Our 18 reports, which were included in our packet. A couple of things that I noticed. I wanted to thank Jenny and Tina for representing RSU 16 at the Poland Community and Economic Development Networking meeting. I'm thinking that was probably a positive thing to get involved in. So thank you for doing that. Thank you. And I had one question for Amy. I wondered about the implementation of the new Everyday Math series, and since it was a series that we used before and just an updated one, how you felt that was doing in terms of implementing the new program.
Sure. So, been working with the math team. I met with the math implementation team twice, and part of that is just looking at how to provide PD during our Wednesdays.
Thank you.
How do I provide PD on Wednesdays? So we've had 2 PD sessions where teachers have been able to work together. One was just upon like a checklist, like a beginning of the year checklist. Like by now all teachers should have been able to, because there's an online component where you can put your students online and students can have practice online. So making sure that all teachers know how to access that. There's also a virtual learning community, so making sure teachers know how to access that. And there's actually an RSU 16 section that Brandy Como has been facilitating and uploading things, so that's been going well. And last Wednesday during our release day, the focus was on their Unit 1 assessment, so teachers were able to gather together in their grade level teams to go over looking at their own strengths and weaknesses of their students, which will actually feed into their student learning goals for their teacher evaluation system this week. So they're able to look at their own students' goals and then look at district patterns. So they looked for kids where they were struggling and where they had successes, and what do we wish we would have known for next year, so we can write that down now and or make plans to overcome that. So some of the key parts, of course, that you always hear from teachers are time. They always want more time, so we're providing that with aligning that to some of their professional goals anyway, so that like their student learning goal will be built around math. And then also looking at following the program with fidelity, so they're making sure that they're actually not using any other like practice Mad Minutes if you have any young kids. Those are how you practice your math facts. With the Mad Minutes, they can do those outside of the math time, but keeping the core math time for math instruction only. And then looking forward to how do we differentiate, how do we go on to the teacher's manual online and use the differentiation activities in order to meet kids' needs on both ends, so kids that need to be accelerated and kids that need to be remediated. So
the online stuff is really very different from the other program.
Right, and then also the other big key part is there's some 2-day lessons now, and there's also more of a focus on the open response that you'll find more like in middle school and high school as to how do I know this to be true, that answering the questions versus just doing the math. So the teachers are working together to find successes in those, as well as reaching out to their everyday math team to build some of their professional development around that.
Anybody else? Anything in the A-team reports that you had questions about? Okay. We move on to the report of the student representative. And Jordan, you don't have to report anything if you don't have anything, but this is certainly your opportunity to, if there's something going on that you'd like to share.
I was going to say that in SRB we had our first subcommittee meetings, we elected our officers, and then this week we're going to look over our first proposal from the administration.
Good. Thank you.
And field hockey won their first home playoff game the other day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. They play tomorrow at Kennebunk.
You must be pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Thank you for representing our school.
Your coach is pretty excited too.
Okay, and then we'll move on to our subcommittee reports. And a reminder that our meetings are next Monday, correct? We don't have 2 weeks between because of the holiday this month. So it's next Monday, the 24th, at Elm Street in the conference room.
And do you want to repeat the times? We had some
Yes,
confusion
I
last
did. I
time.
did write those down.
For my benefit, right?
Not just you. More
Not
people.
just yours. Yeah. Operations is 5, personnel and finance is 6, and educational policy is at 7.
At Elm Street.
So, in terms of the operations one, Erin wasn't there. I can sort of report out, and John can help me with it, and I get stuck. The committee did re-elect Erin Millette as chair of the operations committee. John reported out on major school construction projects with some information, and talked about those construction funding. The applications begin in spring 2017. That Minot was our top priority in terms of asking for funding, and Elm Street our second. John suggesting that we put in a construction project for both schools that would allow us to get on the list. And then when our projects are funded, we could consider how we wanted to proceed with those projects. So at some point, and I think probably we need more committee kind of discussion about it, John's going to want some direction from the board on whether to support the submission of both schools for that.
And we just got a report from the state. Those are due April 1st, I think it said.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to add to that, John?
Well, I think it's just important to know that with the main school construction projects that this shouldn't get anybody too excited, because this is probably the way the school funds these projects is, probably easily 15, 20 years away. But our goal is to at least get our name on the list so that, when they do start opening up funding, we're not at the bottom of the list because we get in too late.
Okay. And then we talked a little bit about the school revolving renovation funds. And the application period ends on September 30th. But one of the things about those funds is that they're requiring now an engineering stamp on all projects at the time of application. And that's a little, it's going to cost money. And So I guess we're kind of on hold in terms of, we're not going to be applying because of that. And then, let's see, John spoke with Pat Hinckley at the state in terms of transportation, and some facts around contracting for transportation services that will be available on their website. And one of the things that we're going to put on the agenda to discuss at our next operations committee meeting, and then to come back with to the board for how we want to proceed on looking at the contracting. Because we initially had thought that maybe Pat Hinckley could come and speak with us, but that's not something that she can do. She's available to ask specific questions, but she can't do anything that might advise us one way or the other. And then we talked about asset data update, which is the conditions of our building, and we had contracted with a company a couple of years ago to start pulling that data together, but it really wasn't in a very manageable and usable way. So our data specialist, Karen Hill, is going to work with John to try to develop a way that we can keep track of those assets that's more user-friendly for us. We talked about the fact that Norm and John met with some local officials and some agency representatives at AvCog in September on a proposed sewer line extension, and you were invited since that might be an option for the high school if that happens. So,
well, high school and PCS.
And PCS.
And that's an $8 million project for just the high school, or for the high school and PCS?
Run the whole line.
The whole
All
line.
the way from Mechanic Falls.
$8 million for who?
That was to run the line, right?
Yeah, to run the line
to the five corners, wasn't it?
Just to get to 5 corners.
Just to get the five corners. So that's Mechanic Falls part of it, and then Poland would pave from 5 corners down.
So right now, it's just in discussion, right?
Yeah, a little history behind it. I'm on the economic development in Poland. We want to get sewer down through the middle of town. We can't develop hardly anything with the lots we have because we don't have sewer. And there's a lot of interest in businesses we could bring to Poland, which would help our tax base and help everybody's taxes. But because we don't have sewer, we're at a standstill pretty near. So we're looking at options of, could we bring it from Mechanic Falls? Do we bring it from Oxford up here? Although that goes through Mechanic Falls as well. We have sewer down on the other end of town, down by Route 122, what they call it the South Village, before you head up over the hill towards Shakers. And we could bring it down the Plains Road, but that's all of those options. We have to bring it about between 3.5 and 5 miles with almost nothing.
Right, in between.
In between to pay for it. So we're just looking at options right now. It's early. And the only reason the school is involved, when we're looking at it, we're saying we've got 2 schools right down through here that have aging sewer systems, septic systems. That eventually will have to be replaced or whatever. And before that happens, will this help us with volumes and whatnot to put the sewer lines in? But it's very premature.
And then John let us know that the Alternating Sentence Program that did a lot of our maintenance work this summer is scheduled again for next spring on June 23rd to 30th, and they're already developing a list of projects. And then we did some strategic plan revisions. And at our next meeting, we're going to focus on food service and ask our food service director to be there, and transportation, and ask Tom Kelly to help us with that. So those were the minutes from operations. Questions? Okay, moving on to personnel and finance. And I can report out on those. And Leonard wasn't there, so guess who the chair of our committee is moving on? It's gonna be
Leonard, we don't have you in the, not present.
Karen wasn't there either, right? So
Who wasn't?
that's a theme.
Karen, Catherine missed
I wasn't, hey, wait a minute, I was there for the last 10
She was
minutes.
there at the end, so she was there.
I thought
But
it
she
was
just was
really-
only there for the last 10, 15 months.
So,
But
are you saying leave you in?
Well, not really. I attended the next meeting though, even though it wasn't mine.
Well, certainly, that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
because we list whether, even if you're not a member, we want it to show that you were present. So if you were at another meting, I'd put it down as, I'll put it down as other board members present.
I was at that one too, because I showed up early
Missy,
for my
okay.
meeting. I was at that one, thinking it was the 6 o'clock.
Okay, so look at our attendance for personnel and finance. So Diana was there, Jen was there.
Yeah. Mary. And then, which one were you
Julie,
at?
did you?
I was not there.
All
I
right.
went to 3/4 of the personal finance one, and then mine after.
Okay, so other.
So in terms of that, we did elect a chair, and we did sign the warrants. John talked about our food service debt report, and I do want to say thank you to John and the board committee for their progress in that area. Weekly letters are being sent out for students owing money for lunches. And also, if the accounts are more than $50, John's doing some letter follow-up and calls. So one thing that we have kind of struggled with the charging policy. And we probably will have more discussion about that. The committee does suggest having the principals put a reminder in their newsletter about not forgetting to upload the child's account. Members from this committee have said that's sometimes an issue. We did some strategic plan revision, and that was what we did at that meeting. So, educational policy.
Okay. Yes, so we held an election, and regardless of whether you're there or not, you can still get elected. So after that, we reviewed the board survey results. We discussed our strengths and areas for improvement, and Mary's going to touch more upon that in her report. We did briefly touch upon the strategic plan. We do have work to do on Section A, and we will be returning to that next Monday. Because we did have Tina and Stacy give us an overview of the unexpected hit the budget took with both the errors and the CIP account issues that we had to take care of. So we did go over all of those, and we've obviously gotten a review on that. Policy KBF, we were supposed to have on the agenda, got pushed, so we will also be coming back to that next Monday.
Next Monday?
Yep.
It says
It
November.
says
Monday.
postponed until November.
No, it's actually postponed till
Yeah,
next
should have
Monday.
said next
'cause
meet, yeah.
that's
It
our
won't
next
go
meeting.
before the board until next November.
Right, but we'll have to
Yeah,
see.
until November. Yeah, till November. Help me out here, it's getting late.
It's been a long
Have
election
mercy.
season, trust me, it's gonna seem like next November by the time
Yes.
it's done.
Is the next one coming up?
Yes, it's,
Okay, on the report of the school board chair, you have on the table tonight the survey that was our board survey to kind of look at how we function as a board. And this is the third year that we've done that same survey. So what I did was look at those 3 years and look at some sort of patterns and trends within that. And things that we have consistently been proud of are budget in terms of process and in terms of providing support for programs and positions, such as business manager. Each year we've been proud of our improvements in terms of board function and government. We've been proud of our focus on strategic plan, mission, and communication. This year we particularly particularly, there were some people that mentioned in terms of the crowd, our steps towards address the issues at the middle school. In terms of trends and improvement areas and needs, again, on all three of those 3 years, member attendance at board and committee meetings has come up. Each year, we have expressed a need to continue to improve in community and municipal communication. And in terms of board governance, this year, it was specifically around executive session procedures and communication within the board. And in a few minutes, when I talk about our goals, those are some things that certainly I pulled over into our gold areas. And within that survey, we also looked at organization, preparation, and communication, and evaluated those areas separately. In terms of organization, which is board members know what is to take place and ensure that the business of the RSU is handled in the most efficient and effective manner. Each of the 3 years, that was an area that we rated ourselves strongest in. This year, 100% said always or usually. In preparation, the next one, which is board members come to the meetings with the necessary background information to engage in discussions, deliberations, and decision making. This year we said 70% usually, 30% sometimes. In terms of communication, which is defined as no surprises, ample opportunities to obtain background information and ask questions, there was sort of scattering of the ratings, always at 20%, usually at 50%, and sometimes at 30%. So that was the one that had the most scatter in. The strongest area has always, of those three, has been organization. And overall ratings, if we look at those 3 areas over the 3 years, this year was lower than last year, but higher than the first year that we did it. So that's kind of the patterns in it, and you'll see those as we move on to our goals, which I put a draft out on our goals. And what I thought was if we can just go over them briefly now, and then if you can give me some feedback on them, and either tonight, or you can send it to me or give it to me during committee or whatever, and we can make any changes. We have already decided the areas that we wanted to focus on, which were communication and engagement, effective board structure and function, and strategic plan. And then I took feedback from our survey, feedback from our community and staff survey, and then some discussions that we had at the Educational Policy Committee the last 2 months. So in terms of improving communication and engagement, these are some things that I listed as activities. Include a written article from the RSU 16 School Board in school newsletters and/or staff and community newsletters at least 4 times a year during this school year. And Tina's got one that's coming out that I've added something to. I put responsibility RSU 16 chair. That doesn't mean I'm always going to do it. I'm going to try to be responsible for making sure it gets done. That we attend public forums and provide regular community updates on the middle school building project. And you'll see within the next couple of months some of those public forums as we get closer to having a plan that we can present. It will be important that we be a part of those. Engage in some personal outreach to parents, municipal, and community groups. Continue to publish articles in the newspaper, and hoping that Jennifer will continue to help us with that. She's done a great job of that. Support website development work that will simplify policy searches and allow community feedback in areas such as budget and policy. And Tina and I have already had some discussions with that, and she has with the person that manages our website. So hopefully we can get that. Continue to work with our school board student representative on the development and implementation of student feedback practices. And Jordan and I talked a little bit about that tonight, about finding a time we could kind of get together and talk some about that. So those were some activities that I came up with there based on feedback that I've gotten. In terms of effective board structure and function, to plan and conduct a board workshop on executive session law and our local implementation of that sometime before the first of the year. We had a discussion at our last educational policy meeting in terms of board attendance at board meetings and committee meetings, and decided that we would try to self-monitor that attendance by including an attendance chart in our monthly meeting packets for sort of the board review. So we'll start doing that next month, just so we have a sense of where that attendance, where people are attending and where we might have some attendance issues. The next one was to review and implement an updated superintendent evaluation process through the establishment of first an evaluation committee, and we try to establish that probably at our next board meeting. Then develop the written process and the tool, and then complete the use of that in June. And that was something that we talked about after we did Tina's evaluation this year, that we've used that particular tool for 3 or 4 years, and we really need to look at updating and making some changes. Include the newsletter Board and Administration, which was in our packet this month, to include it each month in our packet, and each month take just a few minutes of our board meeting to kind of talk about it. To do our board survey again next year, to complete the assessment of our goals, and it was suggested that maybe we try to do that a little bit earlier, both of those things, the survey and our goals, so that we can come back at the first of the year with that, first of the school year with that done. And again, continuing to develop and clarify the role of the student representative. So those were the runs around governance. And then strategic plan. Continue to monitor the effectiveness of programming through that staff and community survey, continuing to do that. Utilizing our committee structure to review and update the strategic plan, and to support the 2016-2017 school and district goals in the focus areas of teacher evaluation, development of science and social studies curriculum, and school improvement. Does anybody have anything right off that they would like to add? Or?
Well, I just wonder, under the effective board structure and function, if we should look at, from the survey, the communication one within the board, because that was one that you said was all scattered.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure how to address that.
Well, I don't have the answer. I'm just saying. I mean, I just came up with the idea. But I mean, I just think we should, I just think we should give some thought to it and maybe add a strategy around that. We have communication in A, but that's really more community and outreach, not within the board itself.
Can you clarify what you...
No.
Okay.
No,
because,
yes.
well, no,
I
the reason I say that is because when we had some discussion about the survey, and sometimes the question, I think maybe the phrasing of it lends itself to making you wonder, are we talking? Some of the questions are defined as the board, but some of the questions are not as defined and make you think maybe, how do I view myself when I'm asking this question, or am I viewing the board and everybody on it as a total entity? So I think maybe clarification of the question going forward next time, that, and I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but just if you look at the questions, if we feel that we're prepared, that we don't have any surprises or anything like that, that question can be, are we talking about the entire board and our perception of the board, or whether it's, how do I feel about myself and coming to the board? So I think clarification about that.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? All right, so if you think of them, I will plan on sending something that we can just vote on next time. And just build on those suggestions and any that you might give me. And then you had this little newsletter in your packet called Board and Administration. And we'll have that in our packet each month. I thought if we just took a couple of minutes and went over it, as I read through these, it was nice to see these are things that we have all talked about and fairly recently. The first one was about remembering why we serve on the board, and some of the suggestions that they gave were just in terms of focus on mission and vision, and certainly we do that by reading our mission at the beginning of the meeting, our really strong focus on strategic plan, goal-focused action, our presentations at the board, I think, help us stay grounded on why we're doing that. The next one talked about, it said the president, but in our sense it's the chair. The chair should deal with unprofessional board manners. And I think we've kind of addressed that through setting our norms and through doing our survey. And kind of what this kind of does is remind us that our behavior reflects on the school district. And on the other side, it was about what we talked a lot about during our board orientation and our beginning of the year board workshop, was that as a board, our voice is only when we're really together, and the boards make their decision and they speak through the votes that we do. Then it talked about when the board is meeting, it acts through its written decisions, and those are our board policies, our goals, our strategic plan. So it was kind of the sense as I looked at that we're in pretty good shape there, that we really do focus on all of those things. And then it clarified roles through regular discussion, and this was also a discussion we had at our orientation and our beginning of the year workshop. And Tina talked about the roles of the board and the role of the superintendent. And that we do have structures that are in place to address these roles. I don't know if anybody else had anything as you look through those that.
I like the one I always thought we couldn't do. Front page, last paragraph in the first article.
Okay.
Pre and post meeting.
You just can't be you can't have a 3 and more is considered a meeting. So you can certainly call anyone on the board or the superintendent to have conversations. You just can't have a meeting behind the scenes.
3 or 4 of us out there talking in the hall, the way I read this, that they think it's a pretty good idea.
Well, I think what we have to be careful of is that it's not a
yeah, I think
meeting.
it's sort of just. I think it's encouraging us to know each other a little bit, get along.
Yeah.
Because it says chat about what you're doing right. Not debating things really.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I'll make dinner.
That's what I think it means. Is that what you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
probably would promote more professionalism.
Okay, moving right along.
So anybody else have any comments on that?
It's good.
And I was going to say, since most of the board members can't get to like the October workshop or other trainings that they provide for board members, we thought this is one way to give you a source besides me or Mary that is for school boards all around the country, and it's just providing a little bit of extra professional development for you.
So I would just encourage you then that when it's in the packet to read it, and if there are things that you see something that you want to take a few minutes for us to discuss at each board meeting, I think that'd be helpful.
You can also keep in mind pieces that you may want to keep as part of like a new board member packet. I mean, like this one sort of covers a lot of the key points. I thought it was good.
It does. So we are ready to move on to the report of the superintendent.
I talked a little bit when we started about central office staffing, so you know that Amy is on board with us and is working primarily on professional development and also the curriculum work. So she's making sure she knows what's going on those Wednesdays. She's helping facilitate that work with the administration, and also she's going to be leading the work on the curriculum with the staff. So that's a really big help for me. I just, there's no way I could have kept that going without somebody doing that, particularly where we're doing a lot of work for negotiations right now. So really happy about that. There have been a few questions about, how can you afford that? We had a class size reduction grant in Title II, and we weren't able to fill that kindergarten position, so that money was there and needed to be reallocated. We hadn't done it yet, so it was available. So Amy is being paid out of that grant. We also have money in the grant, which we already had in there, in another project for the substitutes. When we pull teachers from the classroom to do some of the curriculum work, we will pay for their substitutes out of grant as well. So the curriculum work should be totally covered by grant and not be an unexpected cost at all to the district. So we're really pleased to have that grant money. And one of the things that I just want to say about the process is that as I was trying to decide how we were going to handle the absence of the assistant superintendent, I thought of Amy because I knew she has a passion and also a lot of practical experience with curriculum, but it was her decision to accept that challenge. So I appreciate her willingness to do that and wanted the board to know that, that was part of her service to the district, because that meant she, was going from a change from the classroom to assistant principal, and then quickly had to regroup and think how she could serve at the whole district level. So
I never know any of this happened until I read my packet Friday.
Okay, so I had talked with Mary, but you're right. Is that something
I think
you
the board should know when something like that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's because it's
received
grant
an
funded?
email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did send an email, but probably you weren't called. Right. So the board, we sent it out to the board saying that we had a staff member going on medical leave. It's totally a grant-funded position, so basically it's a substitute, but I hear you, Steve.
I don't care whether it's getting paid from or not. I would love to know when something like that happens.
Sure. And I can't remember what the board got in their email. Did we actually say we had?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it was, you were the oversight of the phone call.
Just a ringy,
yeah.
a little note
Yeah.
in the paper. Yeah.
Well noted, Steve. Wasn't intentional.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, wasn't intentional.
And I guess I would also like to add is that, that was, it was a pretty big issue. It was a pretty big issue and problem, and I was just really pleased that lots of people stood up and said, the PCS, certainly that was difficult for them. So Rick and the staff at PCS and Amy and the replacement of Amy at PCS. So it was really a team effort to resolve that problem. It wasn't just Tina's problem. So I really appreciate that we've got a staff that when we've got a problem, they stepped up and were willing to help us solve that.
Yeah, and Rick was really instrumental in the final decision, because it did mean PCS already had a gap of a couple of weeks and was, certainly a large building to have only one administrator there. And so when I shared first with Rick before I talked to anybody else just what I was thinking, and of course he was concerned for his school, but at the same time understood. And when I asked him who he could, kind of plant that seed, who would be the best person to help PCS if Amy, agrees to help at central office, and he came up with a person that was not even on my radar screen, for a solution, and that was Danielle Hunt, who is a behavior specialist, and the assistant principal has to do a lot with student behavior, and also it's giving her an opportunity to get to know the staff, because one of her challenges is she's in 5 buildings, and she's really finds it challenging not to have really good connections with staff. So she said this is giving her a chance to make close connections with staff, help them with their PBIS at a critical point, and also so it's meeting all of our needs. And she also was given the challenge and accepted it. So there was nobody forced to move or anything like
So
that.
now she's at PCS now rather than in between all the buildings.
Yes.
So how does that affect her relationships with the other buildings, her work?
Yeah, so there's 2 buildings that she's doing some follow-up work with that pull her away occasionally. Minot is one of them because they have the K-2 program where she's really needed and instrumental in that work. So the plan was to make sure she had some opportunity to keep that work going. The other place was at the high school with the new program because she's also influential there. She basically is on call, but it's not been intensive. And Holly might be able to say, is she like once a week at Minot going up, or Rick may know how that's working, or is it just when they call her, she makes?
Yeah, she's gone once in
2 weeks. Yeah.
Lots of emails.
Yes. So she's kind of, filling the void at PCS, but also trying to maintain some of the work she'd started at in the district in those most critical areas. So again, everybody kind of stepping up and working together to make sure it works, and the principals being part of that has been really important. And then the other thing that I just had on here is we are working on our administrative goals for the district, and also at the building level for the individual administrators. And so it's great to have your examples, and we always kind of look to what does the board have for goals, and it kind of helps guide our work. As you know, from talking about opening day, our 3 big areas are the curriculum, effective instruction, and culture. So you will see our goals around that, and I will be sharing them and keeping you updated as we finalize exactly what those say. So that's it for the kind of the starting point. One thing I wanted to mention is when Mary was talking about the importance of being proactive with the building project and board members being available to talk to community members or attend forums, one of the things I was thinking about is having maybe a frequently asked questions or something about the building project at the polling stations. And if anybody is willing to be present for some of the time on October 8th just to talk to people outside the polling station. There's no conflict of interest because nothing's on the ballot, but it may help for you to have some visibility and also to spread the word or some facts about the building project with some face-to-face, which is one of the things we've set is a goal. Even if you just had a sheet to hand out and say, hey, we're working on the overcrowding issue at Bruce Whittier Middle School. Don't know if you've heard about it. Here's some frequently asked questions, or here's some facts that you may want to know. So, and again, we can just leave some stacks on a table. Possibly, I'm going to talk to the town managers. But if you are, sometimes the face-to-face, if you have a couple hours to give, that might be something that we talk about at next week's committee meetings. Because I think that might be a ripe opportunity for us to catch a lot of people in a short amount of time and bring up some of the, might bring you some two-way communication with people who have concerns or are really excited about it to gather some information from the community. So.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea because there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes,
and,
yes.
I gladly do it. I got to be there for something else anyway. So.
Perfect. So thank you, Norm, and
but
if anybody else is
town.
willing, John and I will be working on the document. I have a newsletter going out with some starting information, but I'd like some more information as well that I pulled from our community forum. I was going to create frequently asked questions from that. So. We do have some new hires. We have support staff. We have an Ed Tech Title I position at PCS, Nisha Strom, and I believe she's replacing Claudia Coffin. That's correct. Thank you, Rick. She retired, and we're happy to have that position filled. That, again, is a Title I math. And then we have a bus driver for the district, Stephanie Walker, that we've hired. We have 2 coaches, middle school girls soccer, Ed Perini, and then middle school boys soccer, Nigel Williams. We have 2 resignations, Michael Hofstetter, which is our mechanic. So we are currently searching for a mechanic. If you've been by your schools, you've noticed we've got them on the signs. So we're trying to reach people beyond serving schools, which is like an educational site. And Nicole Nunley, which is an ed tech at Minot Consolidated School, she did math support. So Kim is currently advertising for that. That's just a recent notification, so we're still in the process of advertising.
And Warren put in if you want to check and make sure that your information is correct, because Catherine said hers was not. So I suggested that she call Lauren and get that correct.
Thank you.
Everybody.
I don't have a home phone no more either.
Okay, is your home phone on there, Steve?
My cell phone. Yeah, my home phone's on there, but I don't have one.
Can I ask a question? The numbers here for the school, do you put this on the RSU site? Because I know I've had several people ask me.
For enrollment? I can.
Numbers. I mean, there are some people that are really interested in the numbers.
Sure.
I just wonder if that's something we could post.
Sure. Trying to think
Somewhere.
where we might put that. Wonder if we put it under school reports or something. I'll think about that.
Yeah, just a thought.
And we have 2 communications. One that you have a copy of from the Maine School Board Association, which thanked us for our nomination of Poland Spring Bottling. They weren't chosen, but you know, they did say that after careful consideration, they weren't chosen, but that it was difficult and it was obvious that Poland Spring Bottling continues to be a wonderful resource to teachers and students alike in the area of environmental education. And we do continue to appreciate the many ways that Poland Spring Bottling supports our RSU 16. The other one is a letter from the town of Poland, which I will read to you. It's addressed to Tina. It says, in accordance with the directive from the Poland Board of Selectmen, we're requesting a formal review and reassessment of the RSU 16 funding formula. We would appreciate documentation involving the elements used in the actual calculations for all 3 communities. We thank you for your cooperation in advance. It's from Bradley Plant, the town manager. So Tina and I, this is, we received it October 11th, so it wasn't time for us to deal with it at this meeting, but we probably will need to at our next meeting. So Tina and I did start to do some research about the process. It's a very lengthy and somewhat complicated process to look at a formal review and reassessment of that funding formula, and it would involve all 3 communities, not just Poland. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what little bit we do know about it.
Yes. So basically, the board will have a conversation about whether you think the formula is fair or not. And so what I have been doing is I've been pulling up the data about the town assessments and also the enrollment data that we'll be using, along with what kind of subsidy we get from the state, depending on the town they're in. So we can, I have some pretty good data now from the research I've done that I will share with you on the 11th, and then the board will have to decide whether they want to recommend us going through the process. The process does require, if we do go through the process because we think it's unfair and it needs to be updated, facilitator, I talked to another superintendent who just finished it. We're required to have a facilitator from the state, which costs them $1,600. And you're also, when I talked to legal counsel, they said you should have legal counsel at the table. So it will also cost quite a bit of money, which is a concern for me. So I think it makes sense for us to have all of the information in front of us to say, do we think it's fair or not based on the data? And if so, how do we proceed from there? And the board will decide those next steps. And so I'll be ready to give a presentation in November about that process. And I feel pretty good about my understanding of the process. I clarified with our legal counsel about my understanding. He said I'm right on target with what our process would need to be. And I talked, like I said, to another superintendent. I know there are 4 facilitators in the state, and that's it, because they just finished the process. So it'll take a little bit of time to pull it all together. But I think I'll be ready to at least give you the basic information for the first step of the decision-making process at our next meeting.
They also requested calculations how the split was made or how the taxes were made.
That's not what they asked for me. This is what I got in writing, and so this is what we're working on. We have a reconsolidation plan, and it's stated how it was come forward. So nobody asked me for the information you're saying right now.
Okay.
And that's one of my challenges has been is, we talked about this last time, is if they need information, it needs to come to me in writing so I know to get it. If they're asking you in the grocery store and the information doesn't get back to me, or it gets back to me but it's secondhand, I don't necessarily know what they need because I need the specific.
I mean, they did.
A copy of that letter.
I mean, they did say in here they'd appreciate documentation, including the elements used in the actual calculation. I'm not.
That's not the
sure.
original.
I'm not sure what exactly that.
Yeah. So I certainly will provide them with anything they ask me for, and part of the process for me is making sure that we have talked about what those steps will be. I'm happy to hand over the reorganization plan. They should have it because they were part of creating it. All three towns were involved in the reorganization plan, and it's just a small plan. So if somebody wants it, all they have to do is call my office or send me a letter.
For some reason, when I read that, I thought they were asking for just the calculation itself, how the split was made, is the numbers between. Maybe I'm cool.
No, they already know that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what they don't like. At least I believe that's what they don't
They
like.
got what they wanted.
So,
send them my
moving
response.
right along.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I
So
just,
we can.
I was
Yes.
just wondering who pays for that, though?
So we would have to. It's
Why not them? Why not the town of Poland? They requested the information.
well, we could certainly talk about that. I think that would be a board decision, and because it's our cost sharing formula that was created through the organizational structure. I assume we would pay for it, but maybe it's shared with all four entities, the school board and the three towns, or maybe we can put it back onto the town requesting the review. Of course, the board has to, at least initially decide whether to go through the review.
We're not requesting all this work.
Yes,
so.
yes. So we'll see what we can do on that, and I would have to check to see who pays for it, but I was assuming we would have to.
We are supposed to review that periodically, though, anyway.
Yeah, we've taught every 2
And
years.
Every 2 years.
So the first 5 years and then every 2 years, but a review can just be, do we think it's fair, and we move on.
Right.
It doesn't have to be anything beyond that.
Right.
I remember talking
believe,
about it.
but-
And I think that, just so we all know and understand, I think what's behind it, Poland pays, depending on what day of the week and who's looking at it, I think it's approximately 64% of the school funding, but
Thank
they
you,
only...
Mom.
Huh?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, but we only have 48%, 48.1, I think, percent of the kids. So there are some people around town saying, okay, we gotta build a new school, okay. Well, we've only got 48% of the kids, why are we gonna pay for 64%?
Yeah, but that's based on property value too, not just
Well,
student count.
yeah, but in part
Okay,
of the
but tell the whole
thing,
story.
as part of, in going forward, as the town grows, what's that gonna do? As we bring in more business and whatnot.
Yeah, I have done.
Mechanic Falls to pay for some service.
Yeah, I have
No, they
done.
really don't. We pay for our own. Mechanic Falls can develop that whole Route 11 then.
Right. Somebody gonna get admitted to
So we'll have
So
that
we'll have some more
on our
information.
agenda next time.
I can see a heated discussion.
So
Maybe not here.
we are at the executive session part of our agenda, and we are to enter into executive session regarding personnel issues pursuant to 1 MRSA 405A, and another session regarding discussion of negotiations pursuant to MRSA 405B.
So moved.